Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family.
Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, we will be hearing from someone that you actually heard about in a previous testimony. I met Lindsay Gregory the same day I met Randy Dyer several months ago in our store, Bread Beckers. They both had incredible stories to tell. And when I saw both of them in a class a few weeks ago, I spoke with Randy, but let Lindsay slip away without having a chance to speak with him. And after my interview with Randy and Lindsay joining in on that interview, we got a chance to speak with Lindsay, who graciously agreed to share his story with all of you. So Lindsay has his own amazing story to tell, one that I know is going to encourage you all. And I am happy to introduce you to my guest today, Lindsay Gregory. Lindsay, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on Sue's Healthy Minutes. I understand that you have an amazing story, some of which I haven't even heard, and I know our listeners need to hear this. But I always like to ask everyone a little bit about yourself. Tell me where you're from and give me a little background of who you are and where you're coming from.
I'm Lindsay Gregory, and I'm from LJ, Georgia. I live up 3 or 4 miles from Randy, and we work on old cars together, and that's sort of how we met. Is I was working on my car, and he said, well, bring it up to the house. I got a jack, and we can work on it. So that's how I got up here. So we was just working every day and fooling around with stuff, and one day, Kathy come home, and she said...
Kathy's your wife, right?
Kathy, yeah, my wife.
Yeah.
She said, I've got this YouTube thing I want you to listen to. And she said it's Sue Becker, and it's about Bread Beckers bread. And she sort of told me, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hear about a tree hugger and a granola bar eater. And I said, I don't care.
Oh, you know? Now that's what you thought of me at first.
Well, first time I heard about it. So she said, just listen to it. So come the next morning, and I thought, well, I'm going to listen just so I can tell Kathy I did. You know. So I turned it on, and of course the real bread, the staff of life is what I went to.
Yeah.
And I looked at that, and that thing was some 4 or 5 hours long or something. But I thought, I ain't listening to this, you know. So I got started.
I wonder how in the world could some lady talk about bread for 4 hours?
That's long. So I got to listen to it. Well, the preaching was so good I couldn't stand it. I'm thinking, here she is telling me I've been in church all my life. Randy has too. And I've never heard about bread. Jesus said that he was the bread.
Yeah.
Well, how did the churches not relate eating to Jesus being the bread? I was so astounded when I heard that I'm thinking, I'm going to finish this up because I want to know what this is about. I listened, and, you know, and I was astounded through the whole thing, and I'd have to stop it and get some of this in my head, you know. And I went and got my Bible and looked at it some and looked at the verses, and I didn't, it was just unbelievable. Well, at the end of it, it more or less says, tell you how much bread you need is how much Jesus you need.
Yes.
So I thought, well, you can't never get enough Jesus. And I said, and I don't know about this bread, but we'd already been down there and bought. We bought, I think, about 200 pounds of stuff.
Yeah. You got the grain mill and everything to get started?
Yeah. So we got we did that. And so when Kathy come home, I said, have you listened to this? And she said, no, somebody at the office told her about it. And I said, you need to listen. I said, this is not about bread like you think. I said, this is about Jesus being the bread and how much we need it and what all it'll do. And that's how I got started in it. And I just couldn't wait. I thought, I got to make me some of this bread and see how it works,
Yeah.
Well,
Now, about how long ago was that, Mr. Lindsay?
Probably a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been 9 or 10 months or I don't know. It's been a while. Yeah. So I got to making. I've never been a cook. I am not a cook of no sort, and I don't even want to, And so I couldn't wait to get started.
That is so funny.
So I went in there and made a loaf, and I'm thinking, well, if it's not pretty and it's not real good, it'll be edible. I can at least eat it and see if I get better, But it turned out pretty good. And of course, I brought half of it to Randy, and we was eating bread, But I went in the hospital first time they said COVID, double pneumonia. They had all kinds of excuses for it. And I stayed 14 days with that.
Oh, my.
And then a month or so later, I went in with a heart attack and had 5 bypasses. And I stayed 14 days with that. Well, all of that was during COVID, so I stayed by myself. And
oh, my goodness.
Unfortunately, I'm a lonely person. So it was hard on me, And
yeah.
I couldn't wait to get out of that hospital. 2 rounds of it, that was enough.
Yes. Yeah.
So I wasn't, after you go, I had a stroke 4 or 5 years before that, and then COVID, and then a heart attack, and it was pretty well wearing on my body,
Yeah.
Well, then I got to eating bread, and I'm thinking, I don't know if this will help or what. But
yeah.
And my
You're
son,
skeptical, huh?
Yeah, my son 15 years ago was number 3 in the United States as a dart thrower. Well, the way I gauged how strong I was once in a while was go by that dartboard and throw 2 or 3 darts, and I couldn't even get them to the board, And then a month or so ago, I started throwing, and I could throw again. Well, that proved that my strength was better. Well, the dartboard is upstairs, so you got to walk up 12 steps, and I could do that real good. And me and Randy could wax car all day long, and I got to where I was just stronger and stronger and stronger. And of course, I didn't relate it to the bread right off,
Yeah.
I just didn't. Because that's such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
That bread can change your life that much.
Yes, it is. It can. Yeah.
Yeah, and it did. And I don't know what normal is, but I feel like I'm back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm 70 years old now, 70 in February, but I probably feel as good as I did when I was 50.
That is amazing. That's amazing. So how long between when you had COVID and the heart attacks, was it a year or so between then that you started the bread?
Yes.
Bread, yeah.
Yeah, it was at least a year.
And you still weren't feeling better even a year later. So
oh no, I wasn't. Oh, I was still sort of slow, couldn't get on the floor and get to working on the car, and you get down, you finally get down there, and you can't, and Randy has to help you get up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But then the bread came into your life. Yeah.
It did.
Now the strength is restored. That is so amazing. Yeah. And just like I shared with Randy the scripture in Psalms where it says that God gave man bread to strengthen and nourish the heart. And the other thing about Randy speaks a lot about the vitamin E The richest food source of vitamin E is wheat and grains, and of course, any unprocessed food that has oil in it. And one of the studies that I read so much was the endurance and the strength, the muscular strength that it allows people to
Yes.
or improves. And I noticed that with my two babies that were born after we started Bread as compared to those that were born before. Their muscular strength and their neck strength from day one was noticeably different.
Yeah.
So, and I had just not too long before studied that, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, So that is just so great to hear, and I love seeing you come in the store. You always have such a smile on your face, and so you've been making the bread for about a year now, is that right?
Yeah, and I went to the doctor about a month ago.
Yeah,
take a little, and he said, "It's my heart doctor," and he's kept. You know how they listen and
check you out,
punch and
yeah,
probe and check you out.
yeah.
So in a minute, he said, I noticed he had a strange look on his face, so I was dreading that. I'm thinking, I'm having another heart attack, and I'm headed to the hospital.
Yeah.
So he looks up in a minute and he says, "Lindsay, I want to know, why are you so healthy?"
Wow.
I was dumbfounded. I'm thinking, I'll never hear that again the rest of my life.
Oh, ye of little faith.
So I said, I don't know, and I had no idea. I couldn't answer the question because I thought I would never hear that.
Yeah.
And I was just dumbfounded. And then Randy took me down there. We and him went down there to the doctor, and we went in and found where I was supposed to go and everything.
Yeah.
And I went in there, and of course, I was expecting the worst as normal. So when he said that, I could not give him an answer. I couldn't think of nothing. So when I went back out, Randy's out there, I said, "You know what that doctor said?" He said, "Why are you so healthy?" And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. So I didn't get to tell him about the bread. Randy said, "Well, it's the bread."
It's the bread. There you go.
I thought, well, I guess I don't. But it's the bread. That's why. And the doctor said that. I wasn't something I said,
Right.
He said, "Why are you so healthy?" And
it's the bread.
And I was just thinking, I don't know why. But of course, now that we've talked about it, I know why. So next time I go back, normally you go every 3 months. That's what I do. And the reason is the heart attack and stuff. And he said, "You don't even need to come back for 6 months." He said, "You're as healthy as a horse." He said, "You'll make it." He said, "So just 6 months will be fine."
Wow.
So I was just amazed. I'm just amazed. First of all, I was amazed with your preaching. That just got me in the go.
What? I'll tell you the story about me. One time, this was years ago, I got invited to come and do a seminar at a church. And of course, it's on the bread. And people are like, how can she talk about bread this long? But at the end of it, this lady came up to me and she said, all we needed was singing and we had been in church.
Yeah, buddy.
That's funny. Oh, gosh.
Me and my brother's talking about the bread. Of course, most people don't listen. They don't believe, just like I didn't believe. And, and we was talking about it. And I said, and my diabetes is just going away,
Wow.
And my eyesight, I was wearing 250 glasses. That's what I was wearing, was 250s. And then I went to 125. And now very seldom, the light's got to be bad and the writing's got to be little for me to eat. And I don't even carry glasses with me no more.
That's right.
Yep. Wow.
And my brother, I said, "Let me ask you something." I said, "Why do the doctors not say, well, if you want to cure your diabetes and get your muscle back and do this and do that, if you want to get well, just make your own bread, just, get your own wheat, make your own bread and do this and it'll cure you of most everything's wrong with you." And he said, "Same reason you didn't do it." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "They don't know." But people that don't tell you this don't know.
That's right. That's right. And yes, and that's like one of my favorite bread verses in the Bible is Isaiah 55 verse 2. And it says, "Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your earnings for what does not satisfy?" And I tell everybody, before I learned, I didn't know. I didn't know that that junk I was spending my money on isn't what Jesus compared himself to. It isn't bread.
I got a question for you.
All righty.
Why don't people listen? Why do they ignore this? I mean,
Well,
we got people around us right here that you can tell, and we've been telling them ever since we got started. And I don't reckon they hadn't eaten a bite of bread yet.
I think it's several reasons. I think bread's gotten a bad reputation. Everybody thinks bread is bad right now, which is terrible. I agree that the bread in the store is bad, but so they've just written off all bread. I think the other thing is they just can't believe that it could be something that simple.
That's it. Me too.
They
I agree.
understand that every nutrient, with the exception of a few, that your body needs for health and life and to support good health is in wheat. Wheat. I mean, just eat wheat.
Yeah.
And they just can't believe that it could be that simple, and it's sad. It's sad, but that's, just hearing you and Randy share, it's just so encouraging. Just eat the bread. Just try it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I mean, they believe, but they don't want to make the time commitment or the monetary commitment. They say, oh, I don't have the time, or I don't have the money. Well, you already said, how much is your doctor visit every 3 months? Several $100s, I would imagine, for all the blood work and all of that. So you just went from 3 months to 6 months. So right there, you've already saved probably what a meal cost you.
Yep.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, at least, because you probably haven't gotten the lab work bills and then pay the person to read the lab work. I mean, it's just crazy. And then to come off medication that you maybe don't need. Medication has just gotten terribly expensive. So I tell people, what do you have the money for? What would you rather spend the money on? Doctor visits and medicine, or food that your family will love and eat? And I imagine it's much cheaper than the medicine. And then what do you want to spend your time doing? In the ER and urgent care with snotty noses, ear infections, heart disease, whatever? Or eating bread at home and enjoying life, getting down on the floor again, getting underneath the car,
There you go.
Yeah. So, it's choices, and some of them, they have to make the decision like you did, that you're all in, that you listened to the video that your wife said, "Hey, I want you to listen to this." Yeah. Could you imagine if you just kept saying, "Nah, I don't want to hear this," especially about 4 hours?
No, I can't even imagine now. I was so glad I listened to that. And of course, the bread was an amazing thing, and that's something you have to do because you listen to that. But the preaching was absolutely, it's the best of the best. I've heard the big guns shoot. I've been down to Jubilee, and I've heard Bill Stafford, Ned Below, and I've heard all the big guns. But I'm telling you, that was as good as you'll hear. You'll never hear no better preaching than that.
Oh, Lindsay, you're so sweet. I'm choking up a little bit. That's just such a blessing to me. And God has equipped me to do what he called me to do. And I give all the credit and the glory to the Spirit of God that lives in me, that just anoints me to speak and continues to give me strength and passion. I get weary, I get tired, but he always strengthens me for the task. Scripture that I was looking at right before we got on with our interview, Hosea 4:6, it says, God says that his people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
That word perish can also mean to be silenced. And what I see is our testimony of good health and God's perfect provision is being silenced because of lack of knowledge. But as we learn the truth, just like you, though, we need to share it with others. And it's on them whether they listen or not. But, both about real bread made from freshly milled flour and Jesus, the real bread of life. So I just want to thank you, Lindsay, for just sharing and being such a great ambassador of Real Bread, and your willingness to share not just your story, but also so generously with others. Because I know I heard Randy's story, and you shared very generously with him, bringing him bread and everything to get started. So do you have any final words you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I just so much appreciate what you've done and what you're doing. And, if people don't want to listen, I guess they don't want to listen. But it was just God's will for me to do that.
Yeah.
And since it was God's will for you to do what you're doing, then it changes lives. I never thought I'd live to be 70. I wasn't even trying to, but now I wonder if I can't live to be 80.
How about 90?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. If you've got a heart of a 50-year-old, you might go on longer than you think.
Well, he told me, he said, I just can't believe you're this healthy.
Wow.
He kept telling me that. And of course, I'm sitting there dumbfounded, and I'm thinking, I don't know where I believe you or not.
Oh, well, now you can, and you can tell him next time. It's the bread.
Yeah.
And if he listens, it's good. So.
Well, Sue, you are a fabulous human being.
Oh, golly.
And I appreciate it so so-much. Just the health and what you said and the guts just to get up and just keep doing it and keep doing it. And that was God's will for me and Randy, at least.
Yeah. And I thank God every day that I didn't give in to fear, because when I found out with my major, I'm a science major, why did I have to take speech? And I almost changed my major because I didn't want to take speech. And God has such a sense of humor that now I speak in front of people and on the radio and in podcasts and things like that. So I just really, really, really want to thank you again for being willing to be an ambassador, like I said, and just share your story. Take the time out of your day to share with us your It's the Bread story. And I know that your testimony and Randy's testimony will be used by God to encourage others. So just want to thank my listeners for listening today with my friend Lindsay Gregory. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated, located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.